Howdy, listeners. Producer note here. Not sure if Mercury was retrograding when we recorded this episode, but boy, did we have a whole host of technical difficulties. I recommend watching this episode on YouTube for the visuals. If not, just know around the 5-minute mark we had first Will, then Nate, dropped from the recording session, and they recovered like champs. Check out Raising Spirits podcast on Instagram or LinkedIn for the photo of Will's frozen face. Anyways, on with the show.
All right. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome once again to another rousing episode of Raising Spirits, where I, myself, Will, and the always brilliant Nate. Say hi, Nate.
That's me.
That's Nate. Come in to talk about what's going on in the world in terms of business, culture, leadership, hospitality, and all those sorts of things that you've come to expect from us intermittently across the last 6 non-consecutive months. And today, well, it's a holiday. Happy Cinco de Mayo, Nathan. I'm going to toast a Modelo to you.
Yeah, that to you too.
With, of course, a little bit of twang. Yeah, and you the people, the viewers at home have to know about the twang beer salt. That it's a next level deal. I mean, if you're, on the go, great thing to have on you. If you don't have a lime and a salt shaker, although Nate, I think, always has a salt shaker on.
Yeah, I got pocket one. I got one in my watch. But the green one's good. That's Bob. When I first moved to Tahoe, the bottom of Kingsbury Grade, there's a joint called Dark Liquor, and we pushed the grocery cart through the liquor store, filled it all up before we went up to the condo and moved in. And they were sitting at the counter, and obviously my love for salt screamed at me when I was on my way out, and so I grabbed like 3 of those, and yeah, they got me through the summer without fresh limes.
Yeah, I've never seen a man salt things the way you do. But also a liquor store with carts. That's when you know you're at a place that's serious.
Yeah, I mean dark, and it's called Dark Discount Liquor. At least it was, and so yeah, they meant business when you'd roll up in there. But I think that was I want to real quick. I learned in psychology, I think in high school, you could only, there's like, 5 senses or 5 things that you could taste without smell. And one of them is salt, just for the record. So because I don't breathe with my nose regularly, I don't taste as well. So when I salt everything, I'm pretty sure that's why. And I have naturally low blood pressure for everyone who's worried. And anybody who's known me for a while knows that that's been a habit of mine since I was knee high to a duck. So pizza, cheeseburgers, you name it, I'm putting it on it. Mm-hmm. Although I don't mess with like sweet and salty, so nothing on fruit or anything like that.
And here,
give me some tahini or something like that.
Now everyone knows when people are saying that you have no taste, it's all about, your breathing. Makes much more sense now. It's all coming together. All coming together.
What's your excuse?
I make bad choices in who I hang out with. People judge you by the company you keep. And speaking of, actually, that's a great tie-in. So congratulations, me. We're talking about Spirit Airlines, which is soon to be a Spirit Halloween store, seemingly at a airport near you, and how how they ended up in the shit that they're in right now, because they're donezo, and they've been going donezo for quite some time. I don't know if how many people follow this, because I wasn't, but they've been in bankruptcy for years. They're going through a second bankruptcy right before they kind of just called it quits. They've been telling their investors for 2 years almost, and they actually haven't been profitable since COVID, but they've been telling people for 2 years that this is probably going to happen. And this whole Iran war gas price situation was just the last straw, I guess.
Yeah, I have not experienced the Spirit, but I've always seen the prices and certain flights. I think down to Dallas, and there's a few other direct ones out of Cleveland here that they've intrigued me, but not enough for all the stories I've always heard. So I don't think the reputation was anything that called my name when it came to booking a flight. So
Yeah, that to me is the real
I don't know if
thing.
you could tell me about it.
I've flown them a few times, mostly to Vegas, because coming out of Cleveland. All right. Is this thing okay? It froze for a second, but I think we're
Tell
still
me
on
he's having more difficulties than me, Ash.
No?
Oh, this is good. I wish I had like a pencil where I could draw on his head right now.
For fuck's sake.
I'm gonna pin this. This looks good. This looks good. What in the actual F is this? Yeah. You better start your transition again, because I don't know. Unless Ash is gonna pick back up.
No, yeah, we got a plan.
I'm back.
Ashley's all over it.
I'm back. Yeah, I listened to nothing. So I was here.
Anyway, so we're back.
Anything important to say, Will?
Thanks for no. I'm talking to you. I wouldn't talk to anything important when I'm talking to you. So Spirit was the only airline that was doing direct flights to Vegas. You didn't.
I forgot about that. I forgot about that. If I move the mic, it does that. So don't move the mic anymore.
If you move the mic, the camera turns off?
Yeah, I don't know. It's like something to do with this one.
All right. Spirit Airlines. Fuck.
Tell me about it, Will.
Yeah, flew them a couple times going to Vegas. They were the only direct flight, and that's a lot of in a few markets. Las Vegas is actually one of the markets that's going to be affected most by this closure. Them and Detroit, and I believe San Antonio, down your folks' way there, your people's way. It was the only low cost provider, and it was oftentimes they were taking unpopular time slots. That's part of how they saved money, part of how they ran their business. Those time slots was where you were able to get a direct flight, where a lot of others weren't willing to run those routes. So a lot of changes coming for those areas, but flying them a few times to Vegas, it's not a great experience. I think everyone knows that, and I think that's a big part of the reason why that they're having so much trouble. Gas prices aside, a few weeks of high jet fuel is not going to put anyone out of business unless they were already on the cusp. But basically, if I had to boil the experience down, if you're not sitting in the first two rows, you're having a very, very bad, uncomfortable time. They had the smallest legroom, I think, in aviation in the U.S. Across the whole spectrum of carriers, inclusive of all the other discount carriers, which also tells you the fact that there are 5 or 6 other major discount carriers that are still in business, that they really fucked up their business in a lot of different ways. And I think it's, as we get into it, I think it's indicative of how a lot of folks could keep an eye on their own business and how they allow it to be framed, no matter what the situation is, whether something actually happened or something didn't happen, and people just want to talk about it happening. You frame that conversation. I think we've run into that a few times. You've definitely run into some customer service situations where the situation could have been obviously dealt with better, but also the reaction to the situation could have been way better.
Yeah, fuck, wind me up, Will. It's I live for those customer experiences, and I got a buddy, Lukey. He'll always say it, man. You'll sit there and you'll argue about like a $15 situation, $20 situation, you'll spend like an hour or two dealing with it, but then you'll go and spend, $100 at a bar, not think about it in an hour. And but it's about the principle, I think. So flying regularly, I've actually avoided Spirit just because I've heard a lot of the stories, and not that I'm one to read Consumer Reports, or I just word of mouth, right? I'm built for comfort, not speed. So I've heard about the room and the seat size and such. So I'm not trying to fight and spend a bunch of money on that. And I've always been loyal to one airline, probably since, for the past 20 years, for a couple different reasons. But I've dabbled with some others just based on, where they go. But Spirit has not been one of them. Again, I've considered it, but it wasn't worth the difference in price, taking a chance on something I didn't know. And so I'm sure they fit a lot of people's budgets and maybe some of the destinations, but I've never actually experienced a Spirit flight.
Yeah, you're probably one of the lucky ones there.
I probably
Considering
have a
how
notepad of things
considering
that
how
went
much you like
wrong.
to fight, that's one thing I'm gonna miss is how many videos there were of just squabbles popping up, on the plane, in the airport, and not just the customers. There'd be throwdowns, like 10, 12 people just wailing on each other in the terminal. But there's so many videos of their agents up at check-in, just getting into it with each other while they're checking in a customer, taking bags. They're still doing their thing. They're not paying you any mind. You might have a question. It might be your first time flying for all they know, and they're calling each other. What was it, a stank ass bitch or something? This old lady was calling this other woman as she's just like scanning somebody's passport like it's just a normal everyday thing. And there was no, you have so many videos like that, and that really drove the narrative for these guys, and they never came back to refute it. They never had anything to say about it. They just kind of let it sit out there and become viral. And I think there's a lot of places that allow their reputation to become, poor, and never take action against it. They can, well, I disagree with how people are viewing it, and so I'm just going to sit on principle and not go out there and try to shape that view. And I think that's a trap that a lot of people could fall into.
Yeah, I think, being in the customer service industry and for all these years, I've always prided myself in taking the feedback, not only, the good, but the bad. And oftentimes it's more bad than good, as we know. But I've always embraced it because I think it's an opportunity to get better yourself, your team, your department, your company. And if you're not willing to look at what you have as an opportunity, you're not going to grow, right? You're not going to get better. And so for companies like that maybe, they don't seek the input. They're not emailing you 6 times after you landed and asking how your flight was from the check-in to the TSA to walking down the jet plane, or air bridge, to seating, to customer service, to departing, to baggage claim. Like, if you're not doing that, you don't care, right? And shout out
Mm-hmm.
to all those businesses that ask you about how every step of the way was, because they're wanting the feedback and they're opening their doors to a lot of you know angry people who might be pissed off about one little thing that are gonna gripe. And honestly, as much as I go at some businesses and companies for kind of their opportunities, I'm pretty civil in it, that I just expect to get what I paid for, right? And so I was flying. It's kind of unique because I was flying out to Washington last year, and I think I told you this story, but
That's never stopped you before.
Alaskans.
Go ahead.
Yeah, right. Bring it back. Alaskan Airlines, which I haven't flown frequently, but they fly out of that region, and I think they merged with like Hawaiian Airlines or something. So
Mm-hmm.
they had a direct flight from Cleveland to Seattle, and I've probably flown them now 4 or 5 times out there, and almost every time there's an issue, and I'm thinking like, man, I would have just been better off going Southwest. And all right, spoiler alert, Southwest is my gem. I've been studying them since I was in hospitality, school, back in 2000, 4 through 8, and studying their service model. And personally, I love them because back in 2007, 8, they started where if I inform them in advance, again, those who know me know I have a severe nut allergy, right? Definitely allergic to peanut oil, but allergic to all nuts, going to anaphylactic shock. Will's
I've
joked
seen it.
about it.
It's not pretty.
Where my throat closes, and everybody's fighting to see who gets to stab me with the EpiPen and shoot me with a shot of adrenaline to get me back going. But being on a plane, how many thousand miles above the ground and having one of those situations occur is pretty frightening for somebody who can go through something like that. And so airlines, always serving nuts, peanuts, that's kind of was their staple for, 20, 30 years, after they stopped smoking on planes. And so Southwest was one where if I notified them in advance, they would let me know that, hey, we'll ask the passengers of the plane. We can't enforce. We'll let them know we have somebody with a severe nut allergy. We won't serve our nuts on the plane, and we'll let you on early to pre-board, as it's viewed as a disability, and to wipe down the seat, wipe down the bed buckle, wipe down the air vents and the windows, and get yourself situated. And so it wasn't always about getting on early and wiping everything down. It was more about feeling comfortable, as opposed to like being sandwiched in between two people that are cracking open peanut bags like I'm at a ballpark, and shells are flying, and I'm worried about putting my hoodie on and tightening it up, waiting to see, like, will something get into my mouth, and will I have a reaction 10,000 feet up in the air. So I've always flown Southwest because they started and put their foot kind of kicked down the door when it came to accommodating for that. And I've been loyal to them ever since, to the point where they stopped serving nuts. They started serving pretzels that may contain tree nuts, peanuts, processed in a facility, and then they went all away from that. Now they serve pretzels and some graham crackers that are all made at nut-free facilities, and facilities that accommodate other nutritional, I guess, to take care of customers that have other focuses from
gluten-free,
what do you call it?
vegans,
Yeah,
and whatnot.
exactly. Thank you. And so, I've always appreciated that, and so I've been partial to them. So tangent on that one, but it's once I got into them, it would take a lot to get me out of them, is my point. And not to have disruptions on my flights, and to have issues, delays, and things of that nature. It takes a lot for another company to earn my business. And so Spirit never did enough to earn that. Now, I gave Alaskan Airlines a couple opportunities to that, which is what led me into that kind of tangent there is. And so when I'm getting on the plane, that's 2-3 hours late, right? So we're delayed, and they didn't let us know when we woke up at 6 o'clock in the morning or 5 o'clock in the morning to catch the 7 o'clock flight. They let us know once we were at the airport that we're delayed 2 hours, right? So, okay, some of the stuff we need from a medicational perspective for the family is already on the plane because we checked the bags. They could have told us in advance. Now we sit at Hopkins for a couple hours waiting.
Great place.
Get on the plane. Oh, man, let me tell you. Well, that reminds me of that infinity trip to Cincinnati we took that time. But so the pub's still there, and so we get on the plane, and this is a total separate time. I'm merging two trips together, but all of a sudden I sit down, and this time I'm with just Alyssa, and the two of us were heading over to a Packers Seahawks game over in Seattle, and all of a sudden this dog runs between my feet, between my legs. I'm like, what the hell? Alyssa's like, Dad, there's a dog. And I'm like, oh. And so I let the lady know. I'm like, hey, there's a dog right here. Oh. They grab it, pick it up, and then they're hitting like the intercom, like, if anybody lost their dog, please put your service light on, and call attendant light. And I'm thinking, oh my goodness. And then
it's like
when
those
they found
movies
the
where
customer,
there's like chicken crates and shit in the plane that they're going in.
yeah, we weren't even below. It wasn't that cheap of seats, and so we, they flag them down, and the customer wants to bicker and argue. You could tell they were just arguing about for nothing, no reason, because they clearly let their animal off the leash. But couple delays, delay in Seattle, delay, getting to Spokane, miss a flight here and there, and I'm right back loyal to Southwest. And so I think with Spirit, you have to have a market for it, and whether it was budget, um, and or those flying from a business perspective that didn't need all the added expenses of the checked bag, of the cheap, more expensive seat, of the earlier boarding, and putting your carry-on bag up in the bin. If you're not catering to all, you're probably kind of isolating yourself. And a situation like gas prices and other things over the past couple of years, you lose that market share, and eventually,
Mhm.
something's going to give.
Well, that was one of the big things, and Southwest is a great example or a great comparator to them for two reasons. One, because I think Southwest would be considered a discount carrier to a degree. I think probably the higher end of it, but they're not a United or a Delta or something like that. Um, so they built a reputation on service, and yeah, they had all the other fringe benefits too, the free bag and all that stuff. They've changed all that now, and they're still forecast to keep the market share that they have because they've built that kind of loyalty with their customers, so that they put themselves in a position to be able to have make a change based on business demands, because obviously everybody's in it for profit, nobody's doing it for fun. Whereas somebody like Spirit did not put themselves in a place with their customer base where they could make any sort of changes. They had to be dirt cheap. And frankly, if you went through having had to book them a few times, by the time you pick a seat, you put a bag up, you're right there at Southwest prices. The only thing they really had going for them is they would show up at the top of the list when you were looking by price, because they didn't, just like a couple of years ago when they changed concert tickets to have to show you all the fees. Just because you're showing up at the top doesn't mean it's going to be the cheapest price once you get all the extras and add-ons and all that bullshit. Just having to pick a seat irritates the shit out of me.
That's a foot in the door, man. They get you, and then you're already committed to the
Mm-hmm.
time and effort you put into it, and you're like, fuck it. Yeah, again,
That's
this is an airline podcast, but I mean, Southwest, for years they did, free two free bags, and no seats selected, and now they've, not to dog them, but they have opportunity too, because over the past year and a half, they've went back to,
mm-hmm.
now you pick your seat, you select your seat, and
Yeah.
and you can only get one bag, and if you're flying with up to 8 other passengers, if you got their credit card or other things, because again, they realize what's going to keep someone loyal, earning points and then using those points. And but you got to have a well-rounded business. Again, thinking of, I don't know exactly all the ins and outs of Spirit themselves, but you got to be looking at all those things. Now, I will tell you from a more recent travel, I went to see St. Louis, as you know, 2 times over this past month, and I was surprised because I'm an A-list member, right? And got companion pass for the little one and stuff that she can roll with me for free, and so I get to board early, and I get within 24 hours get to upgrade my seat to anything within 10 rows or whatever, and I usually do it if there's a window seat available. But what I found was the other day I was coming back, and all of a sudden this lady's walking by, and she's offering pistachios to everybody. And now I'm thinking everybody. It's just I'm in the front, 10 rows, so I think everybody. But I'm thinking this kind of contradict your whole, nut free, all this, the snacks that you offer. Well, somebody didn't think things through, because what I found out when I sent a message to them, when I reviewed the survey, and I give kudos everywhere it's due. But then I say, hey, what was our opportunities? What could we have done better? I said, well, you probably, I select, peanut dust allergy, because that's the only nut form of a disability they allow there. I don't have a wheelchair. I don't have an oxygen tank. I select peanut dust allergy, and I have for, 20 years. And so if you see somebody on the manifest that has that, maybe you wouldn't serve nuts like you did 20 years ago. But now they're offering that. And I come to find, when I send my message, they send something back. We appreciate your feedback. We'll pass it along. But they're like, oh yeah, we only reward our extra legroom passengers with the additional pistachio offering. And I'm thinking like, okay, well again, that contradicts your nut free, snacks that you offer, the two other offerings of pretzels and graham crackers, and like somebody just didn't think things through. And it's like the little things like that. I've always believed measure twice, cut once. So, say it 1,000 times, but it's not being thought out. And then think of the amount of people that it impacts, especially this day and age, where allergens and dietary restrictions and stuff play a course. I mean, people are traveling with families, so if one person has one, it's going to impact the whole family. And think who they're going to choose. You may think it's one person, but in reality, it could impact dozens of people on that flight.
No, I think we've just about cemented the fact that Planters is not going to be a sponsor of this podcast. So, very sorry, Mr. Peanut.
Fuck 'em.
For your loss.
Put them with the Vikings over there and the Bears.
We'll get to that because there's Vikings and Bears news as well, or adjacent news for what they're trying to find a solution for this. But one thing I wanted to compare it to, somebody who had a similar situation and came back from it and kind of revitalized their brand, was Domino's. I don't know if you remember, 5, 6, 7, maybe even longer years ago, their CEO came out and said, our food's shit. You guys are right. You guys have been telling us for years that our food sucks and it's been getting worse. And it is. And I'm telling you today that we're sorry and we're not going to do that anymore. We're gonna give you what you deserve from our product and take it back to what it used to be. And now, they're, I believe, the #1 pizza brand in the U.S. They had a whole TV campaign. They had print, just basically saying, hey, our bad. We let it slide for many years, but now there's a new sheriff in town, and boom, here you go. New ingredients, new everything. We're going to lower the price. We're going to do this big promo, so you try it. It was just such a departure from, to use a pun there, from what you would expect from a company. Maybe they'll make an adjustment. Maybe they'll say new and improved, but they're not going to say the old one was garbage. And they did that. And I think Spirit would have had an opportunity to, when they knew they were in some hot water, and they knew that it was largely because they're not getting any repeat customers. They have terrible reviews. They have people going online showing squabbles in the aisles. You had the opportunity to go out there and say, hey, we know things got out of hand. We know we're not living up to your expectations. Here's what we're going to do to earn your business. And they just didn't. But Domino's did. And they really came out swinging. I don't know if you remember that, but I remember they had I want to say it was $5 pizzas for a while that they were going out, $5 larges.
I don't know what year this was, but it used to be 3 for $15 when I was in college. So this is back
well, that was when it was shit. That was when it was garbage.
Which you got what you paid for, right? Mm-hmm. 3 for $15 and 3 mediums, $15. I remember going to Panama City Beach for spring break in 2008, and from the Keystone Light empty boxes, stacked up to the Domino's boxes stacked up to the ceiling. It was like one whole wall of just spring break is what it looked like. So you got what you paid for. But yeah, hopefully they had a market, I'm sure, at all points in time. But again, kudos to them for acknowledging. I'm sure what is it? I'm sure admitting it's probably a big step at a certain point in times in people's lives and careers.
But you think about it, though, you've got, despite the fact that you're saying that we weren't doing well and we knew we weren't doing well, now you're in the news feed. Nobody does that. So now you've captured all this attention, all this free advertising, basically. And people are like, oh, well, they said it's good now, so let me try it. I think it was a genius move. Obviously, it paid off really well for them. But I think that's something that a lot of places, in Spirit's situation, could come out and do. If you're drowning in bad PR and you don't know how to fix it, you would need such a big catalyst to fix it. You yourself could be the catalyst to fix it, and just, call them as you see them, and own up to it. Like you said, you respect more when they own up to the issue and make it right for the customer. Take the feedback for real, not just. Anybody can have an inbox that you send all your stuff to and it doesn't go anywhere.
The elephant in the room approach. Kudos to them.
So, speaking about your Bears and Vikings, which I think we officially have to hate as a podcast just because you're on it. There's a TikToker, so a lot of people are talking about what to do with Spirit. There's so much infrastructure there. It's a fully formed business. They're gonna decommission it, but you still have all that infrastructure, all those things. Somebody could sweep in and buy it. Obviously the government was talking about doing some form of a bailout, and that didn't go through, which I'm actually glad. I think businesses should fail if they're not run right. I don't think the government needs to prop them up, but that's not what we're here for. So a TikToker. I know you're big on the TikToks, right? I'll take that as a yes.
No account, sir.
I've never heard of this person. I don't either have a TikTok, but Hunter Peterson was the TikToker. I'm going to give credit where credit's due. Proposed that they adopt the Packers model and have a community-owned entity. So basically, if you fly it, you own it.
It's intriguing.
It's worked for
people
you.
feeling bought in. Yeah, people feeling bought in. Regardless of the experience and the outcome. I mean, again, there's a different level of loyalty when you own something. So whether you're reaping the rewards and benefits of, at the end of the year, looking at the financial, stats, and I think that would drive people to stay loyal to that airline. So it's not a bad idea.
Yeah, you're not alone in thinking that. It's already raised $130 million on that idea.
Is there a stop to get in, like an AMC or GameStop or something, where we can get in quick?
Yeah, buy the dip. I wouldn't necessarily go out and buy some Spirit stock right now.
We're short now?
Not experts. How much shorter can you get than closed?
5.9.
But yeah, it is a very interesting concept, and obviously there's people that are backing it now. There's also a lot of crowdsourced things, where some consortiums are talking about getting together and buying it out. There's also a lot of people that are talking about just piecemealing it off to other discount carriers, selling off. They've already been auctioning off planes and gate rights to try to get out of bankruptcy for the last 2 years. So
that's what I was going to say.
Very different, but.
I like my auctions, so I'm thinking maybe we can get a Raising Spirits, PJ.
New Standard Air.
We'll just cruise out all the middle seats,
It's all leg room.
Yeah, a couple front rows, couple back rows, and a bunch of, party in between.
There is put a bar in the middle. There's shout out to Carry On in Phoenix. We haven't done a paperclip. I was in Phoenix last February, so just a little over a year ago, for spring training. It is a little pop-up bar. It's called Carry On, and when you go in, it is a remade fuselage, basically. So you're sitting in what is, the first class lounge. So it's all aviation themed, retro aviation, so like 1960s aviation. But the cool part is, obviously, it's just a themed bar at first, but it has all the windows, the airplane windows on the sides, and you see the whole flight. So you see from takeoff to landing, you're past the clouds, you're over the ocean, over the mountain, whatever. All the things you would see out the window. Just a really cool experience. Nothing overly special, but just really well curated, well branded, well themed out. Everything is themed out. Although the servers are all, in a 1960s stewardess thing. There's a captain. They bring out the snack cart kind of deal. It's all just very themed out and just a very cool experience. So shout out to them, who took who we could take. We could buy ourselves a plane and put a bar on it, and you don't even have to get a captain. You just park it. So keep an eye on Whatnot and see if you can get some Spirit planes.
There's a joint called Boxcar Billy's outside of Green Bay that it's got a couple of train cars, and it formulated a nice square, and they use those as dining, extended dining off of the main building, and so hence the name. And
Hmm?
you know what? Kind of like those glass bridges and stuff. Why don't they have like a see-through plane? That'd be pretty dope.
I thought there was one at one point. If
It's at
there
the
is, Ashley will put a picture of it right now, in the podcast. But I believe there was, and I don't remember what the reason was they got rid of it. Obviously, there's so much under you, but I think there was one that had an area that was glass bottomed.
Yeah, we'll Google it. But I
But
saw
I'm,
that.
all you're gonna see, if it's the whole plane, all you're gonna see is a bunch of, you know, luggage.
They probably only have to have like 3 planes like that, or one for each, place that they fly out of for the experience. Again, it's not something you're flying regularly just, to do that. You're doing it as a one-time thing. Ask, ask an honest question, Will.
I'd rather you lie to me, but go ahead.
Your hairline looks like it's coming back this way toward me.
Cute.
Uh, is Frontier worse or better than Spirit?
Well, they're still open, so they're. I mean, I was always of the opinion that it was equal to, but clearly they've got a better business model. You know what was interesting? You ever fly Allegiant?
Yeah, that was my next question. Was because I flew them direct from Akron to Pensacola. They only fly out of certain airports. Actually, I flew them to Destin, and it was like shit was like $59, right? And then you pay your $80 or whatever for a bag, but shit was cheap as shit. That's just only certain airports.
They rank above average in customer service from what's that? JD Power.
Who's that?
Allegiant. And they're really discounted. They actually used to be our carrier at the casino when I used to work at a property that had a flight program. They were our carrier for a long time, and then Frontier became our carrier right as I left. So a little bit of experience in those.
I didn't like when I landed into Destin in Fort Walton, I think it was. It was like a whole separate terminal, and it was an outdoor terminal.
Ooh,
So you
yeah.
got off the plane outside, hot as fuck, and then you got under this little, cabana and had to walk, like, it had to be a mile, just, a couple L's and like a caterpillar around, snaking around all this shit.
I
to
love
get back to
outdoor
Vegas
airports.
plane. Yeah, that's fine. Just don't make me walk forever.
In
Again,
Punta Cana,
comfort, not speed.
when I went to Punta Cana last year, coming back, you go out, you go to the gate, and I'm looking out there. I'm like, I don't even see the plane. They're like, oh, we're boarding. I'm like, I don't see the plane. We were boarding onto a bus. You go out, you get on a bus, then the bus takes you, then you got to go up the stairs. So it was just a very, very convoluted where you've got planes going this way down and buses, full-on buses going the other way. It's a very weird airport.
I've slept in some airports.
Nice lounge, though. Their lounge has a pool. So you can go hang out at the pool and then go grab a shower, change, and then catch your flight. I did not.
What
but
kind of layovers are those?
the best ones. That's in the lounge with the free booze. All you got to do is have
If you'd prefer be somewhere else than at home.
I always go that, man. Having the card with American Express,
American
those
Express?
lounges, man. Shit, those lounges are freaking nice.
Yeah,
I got
they're
stuck in
making-
Denver twice, and that was I spent a
They
total
got
like
the
5 hours
catwalk
there.
one. They got the
my money back.
catwalk one that you look over everybody.
I'm making
Man, makes
money
you feel-
if you leave me alone in there for too long.
I don't know, man. I'd rather be home. I like a good experience, but I sure as hell don't want to go to a pool in the airport, man.
If you're waiting for a plane, you can do that, or you can go sit with the crying babies. I'd rather be in the pool.
Depends if it's your baby or not.
Well, I would be surprised.
Well, obviously.
But
Shut
all
up.
babies start out bald, so it's hard to tell which one would be mine.
Fuck you.
And that, folks, brings us to the end of another episode of Raising Spirits. We appreciate you joining us for this talk on airlines. Apparently, that's just what we did today. So join us next time where we'll have hopefully a variety of topics that we can take up our time with, and we don't get so mesmerized with the glitz and glamour of discount air carriers. Raising Spirits is a new standard podcast hosted by me, Will Hockney, and
I'm Nate.
Nate Geeson, and produced by the awesome Ashley Kuba. Our theme music is by Marcus McLaughlin, our musical director, Angel Flowers. Raise our spirits by following us on our socials at Raising Spirits Podcast, visiting newstandardconsulting.com/Raising Spirits, or listening to this on all of your favorite podcast providers, but specifically, take a look over at the YouTubes. We're over there. Like us, share us, subscribe us, give us the thumbs up, give Nate the finger up, pour a glass up.
Like button. Hit the fucking like button.
Do it. It costs you nothing.
Hey, here's what I'm asking everybody out there to do. Give us some topics to talk about next week. That's what I'm asking.
Yeah, because we ain't got
Give
none.
us something to talk about. We'll shout you out. We'll pour you one up.
How about love? Peace.